Kama Sutra Secrets of Life and Philosophy for the Modern World.
So there's three different sections of the philosophy. The first one was Dharma, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And the other one is Artha. I don't really want to spend too much time. It was the obligation of men to accumulate wealth for supporting their family. And then the last one is Kama, which is the way to sensual pleasure. So those are the three sections of the philosophy. And those are worth stating outwardly. I'll do each one as a section. So Dharma is one of the categories, one of the three tenets of the morals of Kama Sutra, Karma being the third. So Dharma was kind of a moral standard. We don't have really good role models for moral standards in men today. They tend to not do it, and eventually they create their own. So Dharma encouraged creating a moral standard for yourself, whether you're men or women, female or male. That moral standard will help you. Mine is do no harm, and mine is everyone lies, but so everyone lies, but I'll finish the sentence. Everyone lies, but it's when you lie. If you're known as an honest person, for one, you're doing good in this world. But understanding everybody does lie, and you will lie. You can't not lie because you become they call it brutally honest, but it's really kind of rude. Just because you have something to say doesn't mean you should say it. So things like that are like moral philosophies. They're kind of standards you use to guide your life. And that's what Dharma is. It's a moral standard. And it was to teach men to be responsible, mostly men, women too, I guess, to be responsible and for their own actions and to be responsible towards others. So it's a good idea to practice today, to have the Dharma. Artha is the accumulation of wealth. It was you're not truly successful unless you accumulate wealth. The problem with that today is our economics don't allow that, but very few percent of the population will become wealthy. And then step down from that is making a living, supporting your family, or being part of a supportive family. That's another one that would be fit in here. And then today's economy and today's situation in this country, it's not really practical to think about accumulating wealth. Accumulate happiness, accumulate a good family life. Those are things that would be underneath this instead of wealth. But in the centuries ago, the wealth was important to supporting your family, and men would strive after that. Now you have to understand that this culture was very, they weren't monogamous, they were very non-monogamous, some ethically, sometimes not ethically, depending on your moral view, but this culture that this comes from is not, they had multiple wives, they were polyamory, they were polyamorous, they were polygamous, they were just ethically non-monogamous also. So that's kind of the situation with accumulating wealth. But I mean, today there are women who greatly look for men who have the idea of accumulation of wealth, or they have the idea of making a great deal of money. Sadly, those marriages last about 10 years, and then they go on to another woman, or they have mistresses on the side, and they had courtesans on the side, concubines, and not the word for it, but they were like paid for mistresses, and the rich do today too. They do it quite often. So it is not just for the wealthy class; it is for everybody to enjoy sex as a spiritual being. So. I realize everybody has comfort zones, and those comfort zones help them to function in life. The Kama Sutra, and in fact the philosophy, is to enjoy sex in a positive way, and to have rules for yourself, and to basically try and become better at sex, not only for you but for the other person. But I understand that people have things in their past that repress them, but they're not, once the past happens, it's not reality anymore. It's part of the past. You can't change it. You can't go back. But those things can repress how you go into the future. And that's where becoming involved in the swinging lifestyles of others, as I've said, can be healthy and could be promote sexual healing and healing of the person. There is a level of maturity that's involved here and a level of open-mindedness that they were in the 4th century in India. whole long period of progress as a culture. Now they have bad things in their culture too. I'm not promoting their culture, but it's something to say today in this modern world. Don't you think we should be starting to get over some of these problems of the past? And don't forget that a memory is not reality. It's a memory of the past. Sometimes those memories are wrong too. But you need to look at what you can do to heal and go forward. And that's how Karma can help you.
And philosophy for the modern world.
So this is about the Kinsey Report, 1950s, 1948, and 1952. And the Kinsey Report caused a huge amount of uproar among people that were repressed. And the findings were kind of interesting even today. I'm going to read some of them. It was like over 96% of men masturbate, as did 85% of women. They never thought of women as masturbating back then, I guess. Masturbation could help a couple adjust to married life. Previously had been seen either as sin or something intrinsically immature. Women were capable of pleasure and orgasms. It seems strange today and doubt this now, but it was a revolution then. Kinsey was challenging well-established double standards of men and women. At least 37% of males would have at least one homosexual experience leading to orgasm. 28% of women would have one or more lesbian experiences by the age of 45. I think that's a lot higher now. There's a lot of women trying different forms of sexuality. At least 14% of women enjoyed multiple orgasms. I think that's a lot higher now because of information. This is 1948, 1952, so you gotta understand this is kind of like way outdated. Different classes had different sexual behaviors. Upper and middle classes are more likely to experiment with a variety of sexual activities. I think that's sort of true today. I think those in upper and higher classes and wealth standards today experiment more. Some women didn't reach orgasm until 20 years of marriage. I don't think that's true today, but because of problems in the past, it might be. Premarital sex was common for both men and women. More than half the men reported having sex before marriage, while under 50% of women had had sex with their fiancés prior to marriage. I don't think that's true. I think there's a movement to have sex before you're married. Try out the merchandise before you put your name on it. So they talk about, okay, at least 20% of women and 50% of men had extramarital affairs. I think that's in the 80% category now. So that's this study, the Kinsey Report. It's famous. If you want to read it, it's kind of interesting. But those are sort of the highlights of what they used to think and what they, then they thought that then, and then so there's more for today, and we'll talk about that in the next video. So the next one's kind of funny. It's from the 1960s, and it was called Masters and Johnson. They were sex therapists. And these are kind of funny too, what they discovered. That men's sexual pleasure had in no way related to the size of the penis. The nerve endings in women are not that far inside the vagina, and so they can have an orgasm fairly easy. And there's other ways of causing an orgasm on men and women. There's a distinct pattern of sexual response consisting of excitement, plateau, and orgasm and resolution. They didn't have that understanding. Even though menopause, women lose some of their hormone output, the psyche is equally important in determining sex drive. That's something we know today. In aging men, although ejaculatory response is reduced, the erectile response should remain unaffected. That's kind of interesting. About 82% of pregnant women in the middle 3 months of pregnancy report increased of eroticism and satisfactory lovemaking. Women that are pregnant often want to have sex. Sexual response cycle is remarkably similar in men and women. The hormones are not. The hormone math for men is a lot more than women. Women are like a paragraph, and men are like pages of information. So that was Masters and Johnson, and they were really revolutionary in their time period for giving us an understanding of more sex.